right. Hey. Hello, this is Earl Purdy. I want to welcome you to Facebook Live, A Course in Miracles. And we're going to talk about miracles. And the Course in Miracles defines a miracle as us seeing things correctly and having the right answer and forgiving each other. That's a miracle. In terms of how we tend to be about people in situations that we think have upset us in some kind of way. So we're going to talk about the Course in Miracles. I'd like to start out with the song from Brother John Christmas that's called, I'm Not a Victim of the World I See. That is a lesson from the Course in Miracles workbook. It's called, I am not a victim of the world I see. So try to focus in particularly on the lyrics and the words of this song. And while we're doing that, that gives everybody a chance to come in and because we have people watching from all over the globe and tune in to what we're saying today. I'm not a victim of the world I see. I'm not a victim of the world I see. I'm not a victim of the world I see. I'm not a victim of the world I see. I'm not a victim, no, of the world I see. No. I'm not a victim of my mom. I'm not a victim of my pa. I'm not a victim of events, circumstance at all. I'm not a victim. I'm not a victim of events, circumstances of the world I see. I'm not a victim of the world I see. 'Cause what's happening now is what I've done to me. What I've done to me. Yeah. I'm not a victim of the future, not a victim of the past, not a victim of anything that really doesn't last. I'm not a victim of the world I see. 'Cause what's happening now is what I've done to me. That includes the good stuff. I'm not a victim of the world I see. I'm not a victim of the world I see. I'm not a victim, no, of the world I see. No. I'm not a victim of the world I see. This is a very sincere class, but it's not a serious class. Okay, so we can take off our serious, I'm in the truth in a room with a strange guy book. If you're here for the first time, all right? I promise you, I will not break out the Kool-Aid. There will not be any Kool-Aid coming out, you know what I'm saying? There might be some coconut water up here in Denver. I might come up with some coconut water or something like that.
Beautiful coconuts.
Yes. And now is what I've done to me. Boom, 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 boom. If you had the Course in Miracles book, and I got one over here, another loaner copy, but we're going to be in chapter 12 on page 215 in the text. 215 in the text, chapter 12. It's called the Holy Spirit's Curriculum. The Holy Spirit's curriculum, the judgment of the Holy Spirit. That's just another way of saying the loving right mind's curriculum and the judgment of the loving right mind. So this is the way a loving mind judges. This is the way a loving mind handles things that come up in everyday life. In my 43 years of teaching and working with the Course in Miracles, what I'm most interested in is not the abstract concepts or the theoretical issues, but how can we use what A Course in Miracles is teaching in our everyday life? Because if I can't use this in my everyday life, it really doesn't have any practical value for me. So I want to have peace, because do you know the Course teaches that you can't hear the voice of your own inner guide and your own inner guidance if you have a mind full of fear, anger, and conflict and guilt. So if you are full of fear, anger, conflict, grievances, and guilt, then it says the divine is communicating to you, love is communicating to you, but guess what? You can't hear what it's saying. So when you're most upset is usually, according to the course, when you pretty much can be guaranteed that that's when your perception is the most distorted, which means you are more than likely 99% wrong in whatever you're telling yourself when you're mad. Now in the world, have you noticed it's just the opposite? That people tend to think they're most correct when they're what? Most upset, right? When you get angry, that's when you most want to believe what you're angry about is true because you're angry. So therefore, it must be true. You wouldn't be this upset about something that's not true. Well, the Course in Miracles teaches just the opposite. It says the fact that you are so upset means it's possible your perception of the whole situation is distorted, so you're not seeing it in a correct way. So what do you need to do? Well, it says, well, you need to learn how to look at the things that's coming up during the day in such a way that you can keep your peace so you can be operating at maximum effectiveness as far as dealing with the situation that you're dealing with. Does that make sense to everybody? You know, so I don't know about you, but most of the time in my life, the things I've regretted the most were things I said in anger. That's been it. When I look back, it's so many things I wish I had to just shut my mouth and not said anything. I'm glad that I finally trained myself to do that most of the time. All right? But what I've noticed, just like what the Course says, it says you should want miracles to replace your grievances. You should want, in other words, you should want love to replace that anger. You want peace to replace that anger. And what I've noticed is if I've been able to be quiet when I'm most upset, just take a breath, walk away, take a breath and be quiet, the situation resolved itself in a much more peaceful way. And usually some type of blessing came through the very person that I had the grievance with. And I would see that over and over and over again. So then it made sense to me why the Course in Miracles says you need to thank the people who make you mad. I was like, what the hell? What? Yeah, you should be thus. They're giving you another chance to give yourself a miracle. They're giving you another chance to practice seeing things another way. So you should be grateful. And if that's true, we certainly have a lot to be thankful for in this world. Yes. Is that right? Yes. That's right. Because if I'm supposed to be thankful for the people that I used to make myself mad, then I get so many opportunities for good stuff to happen to me being on planet Earth. Absolutely. So that's good news. So so I'm going to give you, especially if you're here for the first time, I'm going to give you the rules from A Course in Miracles. It comes from the workbook, and it gives the attitude that a person needs to take. It's straight. Got me looking like I had a much better time last night than I had. Looking kind of tipsy around here. So, hello, you're seeing me up close. Actually, this isn't me. This is my representation.
Three-legged Earl.
Yes. You're looking at my communication device. That's what the Course in Miracles calls the body. It says it's your communication device. Have you ever had anybody who just want you for your communication device? Don't happen as much as it used to, but I remember. I had gone to see a band, one of friends of mine that was in the band the other night, and I walked out on the patio at the club, and this young lady walked up to me. She said, I just had to tell you. And I looked at her, she said, you're incredibly handsome. Oh. You just look awesome. She said, I'm here with my husband, so I gotta be cool, but I just wanted you to know, you really. And I looked at her and I said, thank you for your correct perception of me. Right, that's a thank you. Thank you for your correct perception. You look really radiant yourself. And she was like, really? Oh, you know. And the Course in Miracles calls that a holy instant. And holy instant is when you come together and temporarily you're remembering the truth together about each other. That didn't make me go, give me your phone number. We got to try to hook up later. It's called enlightenment. Because the Spirit told me to ask myself all the time, to have any kind of traction or anything, what is my purpose? What do I want to come out of this? Why am I doing this? Why would I want her phone number? What would be the purpose of that? What would I want? He says, if you stop and do that, you'll be amazed at the mistakes you will not make.
There you go.
You know, so we're going to be, so these are the guidelines. He says, the first thing to remember if you're going to study the Course in Miracles is great. He says, you need not believe the ideas. So you need not believe any of the ideas that I'm going to share with you. It says you need not accept the ideas. So that means you don't have to accept anything I'm about to tell you. Then it says you need not even welcome the ideas. That's pretty cool. I don't have to believe it. I don't have to accept it. I don't have to welcome it. Okay. Some of the ideas, and this is very important, so I would invite you to hear this next sentence. Some of the ideas you may actively resist. Okay, everybody know what resistance means, right? So I may say some things from the Course that you don't like, that you resist, that you go, I don't know. Okay, so if you're feeling that, remember I shared that. It says some of the, and I love this line, some of the ideas you will find hard to believe. So I'm going to say some things that you may say, that's hard to believe. Okay, I told you. You might say some things you go, what? That's hard to believe. That's hard to believe. Then it says some of the things you hear might startle you because you're so used to thinking this way, and it'll say something from a whole nother point of view, and it startles you. And then this is my favorite line. You are not asked to judge. Nobody's asking you to judge the ideas, and I'm not asking you to judge me. Now, nobody's asking for that. I don't need a Supreme Court in front of me, right? So it's okay. I'm not asking you to judge. There's no need for you to judge. He says it's the same as saying analyze the ideas. He says I'm not asking you to. Now, we know we are. Because he says perception is judgment. The mere fact that you're even looking at me means you're judging me based on whatever your past experiences are and the things you learned and the past experiences you've had with somebody that looks like me. Right, that comes into this moment. Every experience you ever had with a man of color, or every experience you've had with a man, or any kind of programming you had about men, whatever, he's saying you are always judging. That perception is judgment. That the mere fact that you are perceiving, you are judging, because that's how you determine what you are seeing. Okay, so then he says you're not asked to judge the ideas, analyze the ideas. So you ask yourself, well, what would be the thing that would give the ideas meaning to me then? What would be the things that would make me believe that what the Course in Miracles is saying is true? Well, he says a radical thing. It says the use of the ideas will give the ideas meaning to you and will show you that the ideas are true. So if you use it, you'll see it works. Because the Course in Miracles, first and foremost, is working with our perception. It's working with the way that we see things. Because most people don't realize that the way that they feel, did you know that most people don't realize that the way that they feel is not coming from the situation that they're in? That there's never the situation or circumstance that you're dealing with that's determining how you feel. It is the perception you have of it. It's the meaning that you're giving. And it's the meaning that you're giving, your interpretation of it, that determines how you feel. Right? So if you give me a meaning that's frightening because you had an encounter with someone that looks like me that frightened you, so now you see me and you get scared, it's not that I'm scary, it's the what? The meaning you gave me that's frightening you. So the Course in Miracles says there's nothing more important than working on your perception of the situation in your life right now that you might be using to give you a lack of peace. So in order to really master the truth, the course says application must be specific. So what does that mean? It means if you want to get the most out of this class today, this talk, then you need to think about something in your life, some person, some circumstance, or some situation that you know you need to see differently. That you know that you use to upset you or not make you feel, and everybody's got one, or they wouldn't be here. So you have something in your life right now, if you'll be honest, that you wish were different. Or a person, or a situation that you've been dealing with for a long time. Maybe somebody you got a grievance against. Maybe somebody you're angry at about something, or disappointed. Do you have your thing? Does everybody have their thing? Their person? Sure. Don't pretend you're so spiritual there's nothing you're upset with about anybody right now, okay? Denial is not a river in Egypt, okay? So this is not a class to be in denial, okay? You know that there is something somewhere in your experience that you wish were different, or someone you may feel some type of separation from. So that will help you zero in when I'm sharing from the course, because nothing makes a person go unconscious faster than not listening in terms of wanting to handle something in their experience. That when you just think you're going to sit up here, but you don't have anything, the course will put you to sleep. I will knock you out cold. You will fall out on that floor. You will nod. You will drool. Your dress will be, or your pants will be wet by the end of the class. I'm telling you. And I might just go, hey! Right? And you be going, it's like, you want to sleep, stay at home. Don't watch the class. Or just the opposite. If you've been having insomnia, I might be the answer for you. You've been not having a hard time sleeping, then I might be the right man for you right now. That's what I recommend to my friends who have a hard time sleeping. I say, try to read the Course in Miracles. And they be like wide awake. They'd be wide awake. Illusions serve the purpose that they were made. Do it every time. So I'm the divine repetition teacher. That's what I call myself. The course is I'm the remembering the truth coach, because the course teaches that analyzation of the material destroys the meaning of it. So I don't analyze it. What we want to do is we want to remember the instructions we're being given to get to the peace that we want. That's what we want to do. We want to remember, not analyze. We want to remember. Let me give you an example. The course is only talking about love or fear. So even though it uses Christian terminology, it's only talking about love, and it's only talking about fear. So that means the Holy Spirit's curriculum would be whose curriculum? Love or fear? Love. Unless you grew up like I grew up in the Baptist church I grew up in, then God would be fear. But the truth is God's Spirit is love. So it's talking about what would be the curriculum that a person would use who loves you. If somebody was in a relationship with you and they love you, how would they deal with you? What would be the curriculum if you wanted to be a loving, free person? Then it says, well, the first thing you need to understand is what kind of judgment would you have if you were a truly loving person? What is the judgment of the Holy Spirit? So it says right here, says, you've been told, what have you been told? I teach in a question and answer format because that's what happens when people are listening to it. Like, what does that mean? So I just assume that people are going to want to know, right? So, plus questions hook the mind, statements put the mind asleep. So if I ask you, do you know what the judgment of the Holy Spirit is? That will get your attention more than I said the judgment of the Holy Spirit is ... Get it? We've been programmed to respond to questions. So I work with that. That's how I teach. It's with questions. So the question is, were you told not to make error real? Okay, he says, if you've been told not to make error real, not to make the person's mistake real. I got a person in mind that I'm working on today. So I'm going to really make this really practical for me. So what's very simple? The way to not make a mistake real. It's actually very simple. There's a simple way not to make that person's ego real, not to make that mistake real. But here's the problem. You know what the problem is? If you want to believe in the mistake, if you want to believe in the error, if you want to believe in the grievance, if you want to believe in the upset, then you're going to have to make it real because it's really not true. Then you go, what do you mean I have to make it real because it's not true? I think it is true. Well, the Course says, well, do you know the truth is real? But the truth is real in its own right. And to believe in the truth, he says, what do you have to do? You don't have to do anything to believe in the truth. If it's the truth, it's going to be true whether you believe it or not. That's what I like about the truth. The truth doesn't have anything to do with my belief. I like to use a really obvious example, and I've done it many times in my classes, which is gravity. Gravity could care less if I woke up depressed this morning. Gravity could care less if I woke up happy this morning. Gravity could care less what mood that I'm in. Because if something is the truth, it's going to be that way whether you believe it or not. So the truth is not something that your belief makes it true. Okay, that's very important because people have heard so much, your beliefs make your reality, or your belief makes stuff, that they think something is true just because they believe it. The world is in the challenging place it is today because of beliefs. It's because what people believe, not the truth. Because the truth is, I'm one with you and you're one with me. The truth is, you're innocent and you're a spiritual being and you're unlimited and you're loved and you were created by love and you're free and you're not a victim of anything and there's nothing you're going through that cannot be solved if you do the most important thing of all to get that problem solved. Then the mind says, well, what is that? Don't try to do it by yourself. That's what the Course says. Every time you have failed, every single time, that was something you did without spirit. That was something you did without your higher self. Every failure that you perceive, he says, as a failure was you coming up with your solution. So the areas of your life that you feel you're unhappy in, those are the areas of your life that you are still trying to handle. And you know your area that you're always talking about, I wish this was there. Okay, that's the part of your life that you're still trying to do it based on your own personal wisdom and the things you learned from the past. So the Course in Miracles says, you need to understand something very important. And I really, when I do my classes, I work out of the book, even though I've read this 100 times easily. Because a good teacher wants to be a good motivator. It's much more important that maybe you hear something today that would make you pick up that book than for you to be dependent on me doing it for you. You follow what I'm saying? It's like I can help you, and definitely I can save you some time. I don't have any doubt about that because I know I'm more familiar with it than the person who hasn't read it. I'll make that bold statement. I know more than some people do about this book, and that's not the ego. That's the truth. So if they would listen to me, I could save them some time. Just like you might, if you're a parent, the way you felt with your child a lot. Like, God, if my kid would listen to me, there's some time I could save them about a lot of stuff, right? Well, the same thing is true with this. If this is something that you're not that familiar with, then I could help save you some time. And then when you study for yourself, you'll see and come to your own conclusions about even how accurate the things I was telling you. Right? If you actually do your own study. So the Course in Miracles says you need to believe that to believe in the truth, you don't do anything. But do you know what is an incredible statement? It says, understand that you do not respond to anything directly. What does that mean? You may think you're responding to me directly right now. You may think you're listening to me, I'm talking directly to you, and then you're receiving it. But the Course says in the next part of the sentence, but you are responding to your interpretation of it. So what you're responding to right now is your interpretation of what I'm saying. You are now, I'll say it again, that's why people have different responses. And notice everybody doesn't respond the same way. But it's the same person talking. I'm saying the same sentence. Why are some people alert, some people excited, some people riveted, some people not? It's your interpretation of me and what I'm saying. Some person might interpret me as boring or that I'm saying something that doesn't have a lot of meaning. In most cases, when people are bored, it's because you're not giving them the answer that they want. Because if they really thought what you were saying was going to get them out of the situation they were in, they'd be on the edge of their seat. you'd be like, oh my God, tell me quick. You know, the doctor told me I had 6 months. You know, what did you say? You got a new remedy? I'm not going to be going, and you couldn't tell me how I could live unless I want to die. The Course in Miracles says radical stuff. This is a place where souls came to who felt so guilty they wanted to die. And then some of them got here and went, I think I've changed my mind. And then we call that getting on the spiritual path. And getting on the spiritual path is you changing your mind about the suffering you think you deserve. Some people feel so guilty and worthless that they believe they don't deserve to be happy. So they form relationships that hurt them, financial situations that hurt them, health situations that hurt them, jobs that they hate to go to every day. They just generally have a life that sucks. And they don't realize that the reason why that's happening is because some part of them doesn't think it's worthy of a happy, fulfilling life. So when you try to tell them how to get out of the pain they go through when they think they deserve pain, then usually they don't listen to you, or they go unconscious, or they think you're a fraud. Because they think you are telling them something that's a lie because they don't believe they deserve the love that you're trying to give them. So you must be trying to trick them. It's like a person saying, I wouldn't belong to a club that would have me for a member. Because I know I don't deserve it. So just be aware, when you're trying to help people who don't believe they deserve love, they tend to sabotage anything that you're trying to do to help them. Because if you help them and they listen to you, they would be having the happy life they don't think they deserve. So who is the person you should be trying to help out from a spiritual perspective? Well, it would be the person that wanted your help and was asking for it and have reached their limit in what they're going through. So the Course says they feel like it must be a better way. So the person who you can help the most is the person who wants it. And the Course says when a person consciously selects who they think they should help and heal, that can be misguided because you don't really know that person's best interest. Not really. And if they're fighting you tooth and nail, it's a very good chance you're not the one. Wow. Right. It may be somebody else that can reach your child in a way you never could, even though you may feel as a mother you should be able to do it. You might be the last one that they'll listen to. And how do you know that? They go, well, I don't want to listen to you. You might hear something like that. That's a hint. That's pretty, yeah. Right. Right. How many times have you told somebody something? I had that experience just the other day, that a person was telling me how they responded to something that a person told them that was really helpful to them. They told me what that person said to them, and I had said that to them no less than 50 times. Yeah. And they were like, whoa. They said, and I let this go, and I'm like going, wow, I've said that to you at least 50 times. You know, or somebody would come back from India and then spend a couple of grand to go to India and the hike through the Himalayas and all that. And they'll come back and say, Earl, you won't believe what the guru said. I said, what? What the guru said? My thoughts have something to do with what I'm experiencing. And I go, I've said that every friggin' Sunday that you've ever come to my class. But they could hear it through that person. Because I've had people say that to me. I heard it through you, that I didn't hear it through somebody else. So always know the people that Spirit send you, that comes from Spirit, he says the way you will know you're supposed to help them is that you'll be willing to do it and you'll be able to do it. It won't feel like a sacrifice. It won't feel like a sacrifice. It will not feel like a sacrifice. So based on this, just that, I realized how many mistakes I was making in my day-to-day encounters. So the Course says, understand you don't respond to anything that Earl is saying to you directly. Now watch the difference when I got specific. Guess what? Understand you're not responding, class, listeners, to anything Earl is saying directly. You all are responding to your interpretation of Earl and what he's saying. So your interpretation becomes what? Your interpretation becomes a justification for how you're going to respond. You know, your interpretation of what I'm doing, that's how you're going to come up with how you're going to respond to me. If your interpretation is what I say is helpful, you're going to respond to me like, Earl, great. If you think what I'm saying to you isn't helpful, we're going, So your response to anything and anybody, including that person that you know you need to change your mind about, your interpretation of them is what's causing the response that you're having to them right now. Your interpretation of them is what's causing your response to your mother, your father, your boss, your coworker right now. That's why he says analyzing the motives of others is hazardous to you. So what hurts you? Analyzing other people's motives. What is it that most people do? And they sit around and do? Analyze everybody's motives. Mm-hmm. We call it, I want to understand where they're coming from. Yeah. Right? I mean, you ever said that? I want to understand where they're coming from. So that means that once I decide that, I'm going to use a person, once I decide that you don't like me, then I know that I am trying to, I love it. He says, go back. He says, that's why analyzing the motives of other people is hazardous to you. Why is it? He says, because if you decide that somebody's trying to attack you, if you decide somebody's trying to hurt you, if I decide he's trying to desert me, if I love this word being in the black body, enslave me. Because enslave is really the basic definition of a special love relationship. If you really want to get real, that's exactly what a special love relationship. I'm here to serve. I'm here to fulfill your fantasies. I'm here to make you feel valuable when you don't value yourself. I don't value me. I'm gonna find somebody who does, because by them seeming to value me, it hides temporarily how I feel about myself. So I'm really looking for somebody to keep me from thinking about myself the way I think about myself, so that I can temporarily feel valued by the specialness they're giving me. It never works, because even after you get in a relationship, your insecurities still come up, and they're really not hiding how you feel about yourself as good as you were hoping they would. So now, and then the course says, then you go into what you call disillusionment. Now I've gotten disillusioned about you because you were supposed to always make me feel really, really good and really, really valued. And I'm interpreting that you are not doing that. So I'm responding to you like you are not treating me the way I want to be treated. Notice this whole process, I did not ask you one single question. I didn't involve you in any of the whole process. Right? So the Course in Miracles says, well, if you decide that that person is trying to attack you, if you decide that person is trying to desert you, if you decide that person is trying to enslave you, what are you going to do? He says, well, you're going to respond as if that person had really done that. Mm-hmm. If I think you're out to get me, I'm going to respond as if you're out to get me. That seems so obvious, doesn't it? But how many of us really take into consideration that the way you're feeling about somebody right now that you don't really particularly care for is totally you doing exactly what I just got through saying? That at some level you're interpreting where they're coming from, and then you're acting as if they're coming from where you think they're coming from. So he says, I like how the Course in Miracles says, you're going to respond as if the person had actually done it, and that's you making their error real. You're making up what you think that they're doing wrong, and you're making it real by your interpretation and your response. So I'm the one that's making it real. I think you don't like me, that's my error, and then I interpret that it's true, and then I respond like you don't like me. I'm making the error real. So what gives a mistake power? What is it that gives an error power? What gives an error power is interpreting it. The more that I keep on judging where you're coming from, the more I'm going to give the error power. So then, let's say she really likes me, but I've interpreted because she's quiet, she doesn't like me. So I'm going to respond as if she doesn't like me, which means I'm going to overlook the truth. The truth is, I don't know how she feels about me. The truth is, she hasn't done anything to me. She hasn't said anything to me. But let's say I had a lot of really horrible relationships with women in the past, and women who were as cute as you, okay? And so I'm bringing that into this moment. and I'm interpreting you in terms of what I went through with these other women, but I'm overlooking the truth. And what's the number one truth? You are not the other women from my past. That's the truth that I'm overlooking. That you are not my past. So for me to say that I have to go through the same things I went through with women in the past right now is me overlooking the truth, which means any new woman I meet is not anyone I was in a relationship with before. So if I interpret you in terms of what Sally Mae did, then I'm in a relationship with somebody that's not there. Sally Mae. I'm not in a relationship with you. I've had to say that in relationships in my life. Hey, whoa. I'm not your past boyfriend. Don't react to me as like if I'm the one that you've been with before. And even if you've been with me before, I'm still not the person I was then. So that goes for the people that I have been with before. But sometimes the hardest thing to get past in a relationship with somebody, especially if they are adults, is them thinking wisdom, is them judging everything based on what they've gone through in the past and then projecting it on you right now and then believing you're going to be the way you were or the way somebody else was. And then they recreate it, because if I look for you to disappoint me, you will. Because I'm going to overlook every single thing you do that's loving. Oh, that was great. The soundtrack came in. And did y'all hear the timpanis? That was good stuff, wasn't it? That's what I'm talking about. Don't tell me I got to have $1 million set up. Eat your heart out, Taylor Swift. I got my stuff right here. That's right. When I first started teaching 40 years ago, I spent so much money on equipment, all kinds of elaborate cameras and the best, and I've never been so successful as I was just keeping it simple, sweetheart. Kiss. Keep it simple, sweetheart. Kiss it. Keep it simple. Because the Course says your ego, the part that wants to keep you jammed up, tries to make everything in your life complicated. It goes for complication every time. It's not going to do the simple thing. Yeah. You know, I just got a message from YouTube just day before yesterday. They would say, "Congratulations! You know, you just got your 5,000 subscriber." Oh. I said that was cool. Yeah. So that's good to know that there are people out there that are checking you out enough to say, "I want to be able to check you out." That's what I'm saying. The people who are for you will find you, because they're being sent to you. I don't look for partners. I don't look for friends. I don't try to go out and get anybody. I ask the higher power. I ask the Holy Spirit to send to me who it wants to send to me so that I can learn with. The Course says, when you say, if you want a relationship, all you got to say, it's kind of funny really, says if you want a relationship, all you got to say is, "I'm ready to learn." This is like he said, because our special relationships, the Course says, we use them as a weapon. And so I'm like, well, wow, that's kind of a deep visual. You know, I'm going to shoot you with my relationship with you. You know, because it's a weapon that you can use against yourself when you want to punish yourself, but it looks too crazy for you to do it directly to yourself, so you get somebody to do it for you. Then you can look like you're a victim of something that you didn't create. See, that's our kind of chant, right? In my class, we doing yeah, we sound like, you know, hogs on steroids. Cows. Okay. See, I have to laugh at this because it's too deep. It's too deep because it makes too much sense. If I interpret where I think you come from, then I'm going to give that interpretation power. If I believe what I believe, then I'm going to overlook the truth, which is you're not the past. You haven't attacked me at all. That was one paragraph of A Course in Miracles. Did you believe that? That was one paragraph of A Course in Miracles. So did I lose anybody so far? Okay, that's okay. The truth is eternal, so it'll always be there when you're ready for it. That's right. Right? So you don't have to worry. You can take off 20 years. It'll still be waiting for you. Right? Because it's not going to change. And I love there's a line in there with Jesus of the Course, as I call it, says, I'm not going to go with you on that journey that you're going on, but I'll be here when you change your mind. And that's what I feel about people in my life. You might want to go down the path of anger, guilt, and grievances and not taking responsibility and things like that. But I'm not going down that road on you, but with you. But if you come back to the place that you want to work on sanity together and peace together and love together, then I'm here with you. When I have a grievance or a separation with somebody, I don't even care what it was about. Me personally, you never have to sit down with me and go over any of it, because I've already decided I want to forgive you. I want to let it go. I want to move on, and I want to move on in peace. I've already made my decision. So the only reason I need to know what you think I did, and you want me to tell you, is that you still haven't made up your mind yet. So you need to kind of judge what I've said so that you can decide if you want to forgive me or not. Right? That's what we do when you better talk it out so I can decide if I want to forgive you. I've already decided I want to forgive you. I've already decided I want to let it go and get back to sanity as quick as we possibly can. That's what I want with you. So if you're willing to realize you made a mistake and I'm willing to realize I made a mistake and we're both willing to do it differently, then let's do it. I don't need to know what you've done. And the Course was the first book that introduced that kind of love to me, because I'd never seen it among humans. But it really blew my mind. He says, they said, real love doesn't really care what you've done, because if it's only going to respond with love, what difference does it make? If I'm going to only give one response, no matter what you do, you can tell me if you want to or not tell me. But if I'm trying to decide if I'm going to love you or not, you better tell me what y'all did last night. Because I'm trying to decide. So the truth is, it's not that I'm trying to decide if I'm going to love you anymore. You want to know what it really is? You want to decide whether or not you're going to make me special anymore. Because the Course teaches that what we call love is not real love. It says what we call love is specialness. When we say we love somebody, he says, what you're really saying is you are really special to me. And then when you say, I want you to love me more than anybody else, what you're really saying, according to the Course, is I want to be more special than anybody else in your life. And if you say, I want you to love only me, well, what you're really saying is, I want to be the only one who's really special to you. So when you substitute special for love, it perfectly defines the way we do relationships. Totally. And so specialness is something I can give you if you act right. Or it can be something I take away from you. And we broke up last week. That we agreed not to give each other any more specialness. And so I'm going now on the dating app to see who's the next person that might give me some specialness. That's what I'm doing. I'm looking for who wants to give me specialness. So the Course is basically telling us no wonder our relationships don't last. They said, well, they're not based on love. They're based on specialness. And specialness is based on keeping certain agreements. Don't you agree? You're right. If we've agreed we're going to be in a monogamous relationship and you are with somebody else, then you cheated on me and I'm not going to be with you anymore. I'm doing what? I've interpreted where you were coming from. And now I'm going to respond to you as if you've done the thing I think you've done, right? And then I'm going to decide whether I'm going to continue to still give you my specialness or I'm going to withdraw my specialness. And I'm also trying to decide if I'm going to kill you. If you don't think I'm telling the truth, read the paper. You think I'm not talking a lofty concept? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Right. You know how many people have been killed for nothing? Because the person interpreted that they did something that they never even did?
Too many.
Too many. It happens all the time. So just because you have an interpretation of something doesn't mean that it's right. Woo! So I know, take a breath. Come on now, let's take a breath. I know, y'all gonna sue me for course abuse. I know it's gonna happen. It'll be a civil suit. I came to that class. So Do you know that the analysis of another person's motivation, ego motivation, he says it's very complicated, very obscuring, and never without your own ego involvement. Now, what does that mean? That means that every time I try to analyze where you are coming from, I'm using my own beliefs, which means my own ego, to use it. And the Course says, it's no way I can see your ego without it being my ego. So no matter what I see in you, in other words, I can see selfishness only through the part of me that knows and expresses selfishness. I can see anger only through the part of me that gets anger. Whatever I'm seeing in somebody else, it's automatically in my mind as soon as I say I see it, because I couldn't see it and define it if it wasn't also in my mind. So there is never anything you can say about that person that you're upset with that isn't true about you. What? But he didn't keep his word. Well, you don't keep yours either. All the time. Under every situation and every circumstance. You may not have done the exact form of the thing that person did, but you doggone have had the exact same attitude and done that same thing yourself. Period. Period. And it's like, wow, don't y'all agree? Think about it. Tell me something you've seen anybody do in attitude. If you just killed a mosquito, you had a murderous thought. Right. You know, I used to kill bugs left and right. Insects came to me to die. You know what I'm saying? That was just like dogs. That's why I stopped having dogs. I was like, wait a minute. It's like I'm the bridge for dogs to go to the other side or what? Because every time I try to have a dog, they die. So I gave that up. They were not going to use me for that. You know what I'm saying? So that's what the Course is trying to make us understand, is that there's no such thing as you basically seeing something in somebody else that you haven't done yourself in the past, in attitude, if not in actual action. So he says, well, why do we do that? Now this is a cool question he asked. Well, why do we do that? Why do we do the judgment? Why do we interpret people? Why do we try to figure out where people are coming from and then deal with those people as if they've actually done what we think? He says, I'm going to give you the answer. He says, the whole process represents a clear-cut attempt to demonstrate your own ability to understand what you see. I said it again, so you can hear that. It's so deep. Why are you analyzing where I'm coming from? Why are you judging where I'm coming from? Why do you have an opinion of me right now? He says, well, because you're trying to convince yourself you understand what you're seeing. See, I'm trying to convince myself I'm understanding what I'm hearing. So therefore, I'm going to analyze what's being said so that I can understand what I'm looking at. Because as adults, one of the things we're judged by is how well we know what's going on, and how well we understand, and how much you're not going to fool me. There are so many people that just because I do a spiritual teaching think that I'm not supposed to allow myself to receive money for it, even though it's what I do all the time, full time. So they immediately go, you're just a crook that's trying to get people's money. Okay? Then they react as if that's true, because what? They're trying to understand me. So therefore, they think if they can interpret my motivation, it gives them the opportunity to say, well, I know where Earl Purdy is coming from. He's a spiritual teacher, and I know that where they're coming from. See what I'm saying? We're always trying to convince ourselves that we understand what we're looking at, and we understand what's going on by interpreting it and giving it the meaning we want it to have. So if you're mad at somebody, or you think you have relationships that never work, or you think somebody's done something to you in the past, you're just trying to convince yourself that you know what's going on with that person by believing the interpretations you are making up about them and that situation, because you're trying to convince yourself as an adult you know what's going on. And the Course is saying, if you're unhappy, you don't know what's going on. If you're miserable, you don't know what's going on. If you're sad, you don't know what's going on. So you're the main person who doesn't understand anything that's going on. The sadder you are, the more angry you are, the area of your life that you're the most bored in, sick in, lacking in, and unhappy in, that's the area of your life that you're trying to convince yourself you know what's going on, and you're wrong. Time for a little bit more dramatic music. me to work that out, that it happened at just that moment. I had to have the right pace and know how long to stall around, let some people drool, you know, I had to.
Timing.
I had to have good. It's all about the timing.
That's it. Exactly.
See,
Right.
some of y'all might be, your bodies might be old enough, and you incarnated here. Did you remember a comedian named Jack Benny? Anybody remember Jack Benny? Yeah, Jack Benny. I loved Jack Benny when I was a kid. I don't know what I was like, because his timing was impeccable.
Yes, it was.
He would say something and he would stop and he would go,
Yeah.
and he would just pause and the people would fall out on the floor because of his timing. That's what happens with a relationship. Most people have bad timing. You're speaking at the wrong time. Oh, well, what time is that, Earl? When you're mad. That's always the wrong time. So the course is saying you all are trying to demonstrate that you have the, God, I got to stop. Okay. The analysis of ego motivation, he says, the whole process represents a clear-cut attempt to demonstrate your own ability to understand what you perceive. So he says, now once you think you understand what you're looking at and what's going on, you know that's the truth because you're responding to your interpretations as if they're true. So you made your judgment, like he says, you're trying to make yourself think you understand what's going on. So you're analyzing that person or that situation, and you're interpreting it based on your past experiences and your thoughts. So because as an adult, you're trying to convince yourself you understand what you see, and you know you think you understand what you see because you're reacting to your interpretations as if they are correct. You keep on reacting to the way that you're looking at them or that situation as if you are correct. And then what happens when you do that? He says, well, once I made the decision that you don't like me, whether you really like me or not, then I'm going to react like you don't like me because that tells me I understand what I'm looking at. So I got to make what I'm thinking true. Again, you're not involved. I just need you here for me to project on. You my screen. Let's get that straight. You're IMAX. You're a screen. You're a big old screen for me to project all of my stuff on, right? So what's going to happen if I decide that you like me, but you and I decide you don't like me? He says, well, you're going to control the way that you behave, but you don't control the way you feel. I might think you don't like me and still act okay around you, but out on the inside, I feel like you don't like me. So the Course says you got a bunch of people walking around controlling the way that they behave outwardly, but they're not really controlling how they feel about you. They just act in one way and feel another way. Anybody relate?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Anybody relate?
All too well.
Okay, that's whoever you're mad at right now. And you're still trying to act like you're not. Or you feel disappointed in, or you're worried about. So then the Course says, then that is what the Course calls a split. Or he says it's an attack on the integrity of your mind. When you're behaving opposite to the way that you feel, he says you're pitting one level of your mind against another level of your mind. Okay. You know, in a sense, you got what you're thinking absolutely split between what you're thinking and what you're feeling. They're two different things. They're battling it out. I'm behaving one way. I'm feeling another way. And I'm behaving one way and feeling another way because I've analyzed you, I've interpreted where you're coming from. I am believing that the interpretation that I've given you is true. And so I'm reacting to you as if what I think about you is true because I'm overlooking the fact that I'm upset means I'm wrong from the very beginning. See, the fact that I'm doing that in anger, then some people would say to me, Earl, what do you mean? I could be right about the physical thing that the person did. I said, I'm not talking about the physical thing the person did. You're wrong because you're interpreting it in a way that keeps you upset and mad and crazy. That's how you're wrong. That's how you're wrong. Because there's a way to look at anything that you're going through that you could look at it from a more peaceful place. And when you're doing it from a more peaceful place, you are more effective in that relationship and what you're dealing with. So you're wrong not because they didn't steal your car. You're wrong because you're attacking yourself about it. And you're keeping yourself. The car's gone. It's gone. So that's the fact. So there's no sense in the Course was the first thing that book said to me, it doesn't make any sense to get angry at a fact. And that just, you know, it's like sometimes the court says stuff and I just give it the finger. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I don't mind expressing how I'm reacting to it. Because he's saying, if you got any sense, Earl, you will hope you're wrong whenever you don't like something. You'll hope you're wrong whenever you're in pain. You'll hope you're wrong when you're feeling jealous. You'll hope you're wrong when you said that you can't have prosperity and abundance and health. You should never want to be right when you're unhappy. Ever. Because if something is right, where can you go with it? If it's right, what can you do? Make it wrong? There's no way to go with it when you make something that makes you unhappy right. Because nothing can be better than right or than right. If it's the truth, if you see what's upsetting you as the truth, then how do you get relieved of it? If it's the truth, that's the way it is. So the Course in Miracles taught me, it said, don't ever, ever want to be right when you don't like the way you feel. Don't ever want to be right about your partner if you think they're misusing you or mistreating you. You don't want to be right about it. You want another way to look at it. You want another approach to it. You want to know, how do we get back to peace in this situation? Peace. Right? But how can I get there if I'm already upset and angry? So so the first thing I need to do is what we did today, because next week I'm going to start off where I left off with paragraph 2. So I'm not going to rush through this. I'm not going to give you a lot to forget. You know, I'm not going to go through 10 pages to forget now. Right, yeah, we're going to do 2 paragraphs. Because all you need is one, the Course says all you need is one truth that you use consistently. And he says it'll take you into all truth. Just one. Just one. So what would be an example of that? An example of that would be if I walked out of here today and I went, okay, if I'm interpreting somebody else's motivation right now, I don't really know what's going on. If I'm looking at this person and I'm thinking of them in terms of what somebody else did, then I'm not really seeing them correctly. No. That I need to remember that to believe in the truth, I don't have to do anything, and that I'm not responding to things directly. So we're going to get into, so if you just remember that could give you a pause this week when you're dealing with somebody, a pause that would allow a better way to deal with that to show up. If you were to go, okay, wait a minute. I remember Earl said Sunday, if I'm mad and I want to run over him right now, there's a possibility my perception is distorted. Okay, so my first responsibility then is to want to look at this another way, and I need to get back to center. I know I'm really about to go off, so maybe I need to go for a walk. Maybe I need to go for a drive. Maybe I need to get out of this person's face for a minute. But the one thing I'm not going to do is call them. The one thing I'm not going to do is say, let's talk about this. I'm not going to say, let's talk about this. I'm not going to say, let's talk about this when I'm most upset. I will not say, let's talk about this while I'm most upset. I'm going to ask for another way to look at it. Because right now I'm mad, and I'm mad because of the analyzation and the judgments that I put on this situation based on my past experience. And so now I'm given this power that I'm going through. I'm getting more and more upset. I'm overlooking the truth. And in most cases, that truth is I'm not even asking the person what's going on and saying that I'm willing to listen to what you have to say. Somehow I'm overlooking the truth when I'm mad. Somehow I'm overlooking the obvious when I'm mad. So let's not overlook the love offering bag. Okay, now, if you want to share, I really thank you. I'm a full-time teacher of what I do, and so I'm going to pass it around. And you're innocent either way it goes. But thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing. The other thing I'd like to say, if you're online and you'd like to make a financial expression of appreciation, you can use Venmo, Zelle, PayPal, and Cash App. All you need is, it's always a trip when you realize what you receive is what you're asking for. And sometimes I'm amazed at how much I ask for and how little I ask for in my life. It's a trip. When you get into metaphysics and you know everybody's always giving you what you're asking for and what you think you deserve, you realize that the most important thing you can do is increase your own self-love and your own sense of self-value and self-worth. You know, Course in Miracles says some people are going to be, if you're going to fulfill your function of being a teacher and being someone that wants to be a voice for love, he says some people are going to be sent to give you the money that you need to stay and do your thing. And then it says some people are going to be sent to show you how much you need forgiveness. And sometimes I have some real forgiveness weeks, let me tell you. Right? Because there is nothing that's more sobering when you begin to recognize the truth that you're your creator, you're the creator of your experience on every level, and how you see it and experience it on every level, because you are a creator, because you're the child of a creator. So the children always have the characteristics of the parents who give them birth. So if you are love and you are spirit, then you came from spirit. You came from a higher power, so therefore you have those same creative abilities within you, but you don't know it. And so since you don't know it, you don't know you're creating your experience and everything that's happening to you, because nobody's taught you that. They've taught you you're a victim of forces beyond your control. So you don't realize you're creating everything, and that's the secret that you're keeping from yourself. And once you recognize you are the creator, then it just becomes a matter of you spending your time getting rid of the blocks and the fears and the misbeliefs you have that's causing you pain, and you stop spending all your time trying to get other people to change to be the way you want them to be so you can be happy, because that's just like getting mad at a mirror because it's reflecting back to you the shirt you're wearing. And then you're expecting that the shirt's going to change in the mirror before you change your shirt. So, or being in a movie theater and not liking the movie, and you run up to the screen and think you're going to change what's on the screen. You got to change the projector. So the more you wake up and the more you become conscious, the less you say to other people about anything, because you know all you have to do is change your mind, and that situation and that circumstance is going to change. So you're spending all your time trying to get rid of your own crap and your own blocks, instead of always trying to figure out how you can get somebody else to be the way you want them to be. That's how I can tell whether or not I'm around a person who's awake and one who's asleep, is how much personal responsibility they're taking for their experience and how much they're blaming everybody else, including their childhood, for everything that they're going through right now. Now, the people who are still projecting that anger outside, they are calling for help. They are calling for love. They're calling for another way to look at it that would help them get out of their pain. So the only thing you see in this world when you begin to wake up is love or a call for love. Those are the only things you see happening. You see either people who are expressing happiness and peace and oneness and joy, and people who are acting crazy as hell, which is people who are asking for the peace and love and joy. And so we're going to get deeper into how that whole thing works, and then how you would apply it to your day-to-day life and to your experience. So like I said, those who would like to share with me, all you need is my email address. That's Earl Purdy at earlpurdy.com. Earl Purdy, P-U-R-D-Y, at earlpurdy.com. I also do one-on-one sessions, and I do one-on-one coaching. The best way to get with me to do that is to go to my website. You'll be able to self-book an appointment with me. That makes the whole thing smoother all the way around, for those who also want to work with me as a coach, and also work with me in terms of you got a situation or situations that you'd like to have another way to look at it for you to handle this, because I don't know how to break it to you, but guess what? You don't have an original problem. I know your specialists tell you you're in a situation that can't be solved, but I promise you, you're not going to present me personally with anything that I haven't heard before in one way or another. And because the Course in Miracles says what we should do is ask to recognize that our problems have been solved, that it's already been solved. That simply means there's already an answer, so that means your problem has already been solved. That's what. So when you said, when you say it's already, what you mean? My financial problem has been solved. I still need the money to pay my rent. No, that problem has been solved. There are laws of abundance and prosperity and manifestation, and how you have the money to pay your rent. That the issue is, Do you love yourself enough to quit the suffering that comes from you worrying about whether or not you're going to be able to do that? Because that's just a form of punishing yourself. Why? Because there's a way out and you're not doing anything about it. So then you have to get to the point that you let people go over the cliff and crash. Because that's what it takes for some people to go, I've had enough. There must be a better way. And then they get on it. But you don't have to do that. It's not necessary for you to go over the cliff. But some people are cliff dwellers. That's where they live.
That's right.
But guess what? They'll never be without help. They'll never be without support. Spirit will always be with them. Because all of us are loved by what created us, regardless of what we feel about ourselves, and regardless of what anybody else feels about you. You are loved by a real love. You can't lose a real love. A real love doesn't ever change. Can you lose specialness? You know you can. You've done it a million times if you're over 20. You know that. You know that somebody can want you 1 minute and don't want you the next, depending on whether or not you are serving them. Because that's what it is. You want them to serve you. They're here to do what you want them to do for you to be happy. It's like, then you say, well, I'm calling you selfish. But then I have to say to you, what's more selfish than that you're doing?
Exactly.
That's why you got a selfish partner. You selfish. I got to shut up here before the torches come out. Okay. All right. So Thursdays at 7 o'clock Mountain Time on the Earl Purdy page on Facebook. I do another Facebook Live on A Course in Miracles. I call it Hardcore Live, the Hardcore Course in Miracles. If you know people who are not on Facebook, all of my classes are on YouTube. You can go to YouTube. Please share my classes. I appreciate that. There's nothing better than word of mouth. There's nothing better than I don't want to do it. I don't want to do this alone, right? So I'm here to be as helpful as I can. I'm not perfect. I'm teaching what I should learn. That's why I'm doing it, because it guarantees me that I'll hear this if I'm talking it. That's why I do it, because I hear everything I'm saying to you. And since I don't know when I've talked to too many people that said this to me, have you talked to many people that said what you just heard today to you lately? Okay, no. So how do you guarantee you hear the truth? You have to give it attention and study yourself. I became a teacher to make sure I hear the truth on a regular basis, because I knew I wouldn't with regular people. Regular people are never going to talk the truth. Regular people are going to always talk from a perspective of being a victim of everything that's happening to them and not claiming their power and telling you what's wrong with everything and complaining about everything and saying what needs to be different for them to be happy. That's called the world. The Course calls that the world. So I have to make sure I'm going to hear loving thoughts. I have to make sure I'm going to be around people who want to go beyond their blocks and also want to become more loving. It's easier when I'm not doing it by myself. It's easier when we're doing it together. That's the truth. So I want you to know out there, I appreciate you so much. And Sundays at 1 p.m. Mountain Time, I do Facebook Live, A Course in Miracles. That's where we are right now. If you happen to be in the Denver area and you want to attend in person, it's at 1555 Race Street. 1555 Race Street. Okay, 80206. Because when we come together, that's a different energy. Also, you know what I mean? So the truth wants to get to you. There are people who want to love you that the Course says are waiting for you to answer the call. I'll say that again. There are already people who have been assigned to you to help you, but they're waiting for you to have the call. So what is the call? Me not looking to my own ego and my own past learnings as the light to guide me now. Me being willing to say, I hope I'm wrong, there must be a better way. It comes from me saying to the higher power, what do you want me to do? What do you want me to say? Who do you want me to say it to? What do you want me to do? Where do you want me to go? What do you want me to say? Who do you want me to say it to? The Course says if you were to ask those 4 questions, that's you opening up to all kinds of help that you could never even imagine. But if you say this, it's gonna, he says, you're gonna end in miserable failure at some point. I go, well, what is that? What is it? He says, if you say, if this were different, I would be happy. If they were different, I would be happy. If the circumstance were different, I would be happy. He says, because at that point, you completely made your happiness dependent on what you cannot control and what's outside of you. So you guarantee failure. I don't want to make my happiness dependent on whether you love what I said today or didn't like what I said today. I don't want my happiness to be based on whether you come back again, and even though I would totally appreciate it if you would. You see what I'm saying? I don't want anything in my life to be dependent on somebody else for me to feel peace. So that's what I work on all the time, because I've been programmed to want people to be the way I want them to be for me to be happy. I don't know if y'all know anything about that, but I tend to feel that way. Y'all ever felt that way? Okay, so we know we all got the same issue, right? Mm-hmm. So that means that we can learn how to get beyond that together by reminding each other of, you need to ask the universe, spirit, what you should do, where you should go, what you should say, and who you should say it to, instead of trying to figure out how you can get your mama to not be criticizing you when you come over for a visit. So we're going to talk about this curriculum, the love curriculum. That's what this is called, the love curriculum. The peace curriculum. So those of you who are at home and you got the books and you're following me, then make sure you read this section. If you go ahead and read this section, then as I go through this section, it will have a lot more meaning for you. Because my goal, a good teacher, the course says, has to have two characteristics. It says a good teacher has to believe in what they're teaching and has to believe in the people they're teaching. See, if I'm going to be a good teacher, then I have to believe in this, but I have to also believe in you. And he said a good teacher knows they can never change somebody. That the best a good teacher can do is to try to motivate a person to want to change themselves. Right. And you can apply it to your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your children, your boss, your co-workers. The most you can do with them is set some kind of example that just because of the way you're relating to them, it makes them want to change their mind about you. Not that you change their mind about you. So it says that kind of stuff. This book, I don't get it, man. I don't get why people don't study and read this book. It tells you everything crazy people are going to do. Oh, yeah. And it tells you everything sane people are going to do. It tells you everything, everybody around you, people are going to think you're psychic, but you're not. It's just that this book says people who think they're separate and people who think they're afraid, this is what they do. This is what they do in every area of their life. So if you remember this, you'll know what's going to happen with anybody you meet. Then he goes, and I'm going to show you exactly what a person that loves you would do, exactly how a person that was sane would do, exactly what would be the characteristics of a person you could trust, so that you'll be able to make the choice. And then he says that once the choices are obvious to you, you're going to make the right decision. He said, but the problem is, he says, we don't know when we're making the right choice and when we're making a wrong one. So he said, okay, then rather than trying to figure that out, what do? He says, well, what you do is you judge by the way you feel. Start there. Start there. If you're not feeling peace and you're not feeling happiness and you're not feeling joy, you can assume that there's something about your perception that is wrong. And then say, I hope I'm wrong. I want another way to look at this. Got that? Then the mind goes, well, what is the other way of looking at it? I'm glad you asked.
There it is.
There it is. Or it could be some other teaching. It could be some other path. But it's already given you the way you could look at it so you could get past that grievance you got with everybody, sadness you got about anything. It's already defined exactly how to get out of it, and you have a teacher assigned to you to help you do it, because Spirit knows you can no more take care of yourself at the next level of spirituality as a newborn baby can in terms of feeding itself. When it's first born, the parent has to do everything for it because the baby is in a new reality. So when you say you want to go to real love and you want to be in a new reality, you're like an infant saying, I'm ready to do something I've never done before. So you're the last one that can feed you. Like that infant would be the last one who could feed him. But he certainly isn't putting up any resistance but he certainly poops. And that's what we do. We poop all the time when we need to be taken care of by an intelligence that's more loving and greater than us. But we are like little children pretending that they're adults. That's what we are. The Course says you're like spiritual God children. You create, you're learning how to create, just like a little child is learning how to do that, and you're going to make mistakes. And he says your first mistake is believing that the things that are happening, that you are experiencing, are not coming from your own thoughts, feelings, emotions, and beliefs. Wow. So I know I went over, and for people who wanted that, they're happy. And the people who didn't, they're gone already. So everybody happy. I know. I appreciate you all. I needed to hear what I heard today. I definitely needed to hear it. So I love you. I appreciate you. And may the Course be with you. But wait a minute.
Also with you.
Right on time. Did y'all check that out? So I appreciate y'all. Y'all, I'm from the South. I appreciate y'all.
Come back now.
Appreciate y'all. Come back now. You hear? I told you, put your clothes on. Appreciate you, but you